Particularly since we've lost a little bit of time this morning, for which I apologise, now isn't the time for many words from me. We have a full calendar for the next month with a bit of a break in the middle for half term, but I would like to mention 4 matters, if I may. First, those of you who followed the inquiry as it's moved from place to place throughout the country will know how great an importance is placed on respecting the wishes of witnesses concerning the way they wish to give their evidence. Part of what makes it easier for many to give their evidence orally, as best they would wish to do, is having the protection of an anonymity order. You will have heard me read out the exact terms of an order protecting a witness's identity against disclosure so many times that you may have begun to switch off. Here we go again. A bit like the reaction of the frequent flyer who hears the cabin crew's safety talk so often that hearing it again becomes an irritation without meaning, rather than something which is of importance. In these weeks of hearing, there will be a greater number of witnesses who will give evidence anonymously than we have had before. In one case, at least, the witness will not come into this room to testify. You will hear rather than see the witness. I'm putting in a plea to each of you and to the press to listen carefully to the words of any anonymity order. But more than that, to take care yourselves, each of you, of what anonymity is really all about. And in this inquiry, what we need to be particularly careful about, this inquiry of all inquiries, that is, respecting a person's privacy. It's very easy indeed for the press, media, or public to take a photo of someone who is willing to be photographed. But it's frighteningly easy, too, for someone who is not willing to be photoed or videoed to be caught in the background. If you must take photographs with permission, please do take care that such a person is not unintentionally caught. Second, on a different note, I was reflecting last week that it's just over a year ago that I met many of you at Church House for our preliminary hearings. With sadness, I note that some who were there then cannot be with us here now. What became clear then, and remains clear now, is that a great many have lost what was dearest to them. And for some, real financial hardship is the everyday reality, and that is through no fault of their own. No one could fail to have been moved by what they heard, whether politician, press, or public, nor lose sight of the fact that some would not see out the inquiry, however hard the inquiry tries to work quickly. So I wrote to the Cabinet Office that October, outlining the inadequacies and variation in financial support, and suggested that decisive action should be taken. A year on, evidence has been given by witness after witness which has underscored the point. But also, a year on, some disparities remain. Of course, I'm not yet in a position to report final conclusions and make recommendations, but I would hope that nonetheless there remains the will to take further meaningful steps forward. Third, I'd like to say a word to those who have things to say to me but think it may be too late to make a contribution. It isn't. It really isn't. Every witness statement contributed between now and the end of the inquiry will be read. Do not, please, think that because someone else has said much the same as you would say, there's no point in your saying it too. Everyone is different. Everyone has their own story to tell. And if it is the fact that one witness statement says more or less the same as another, that itself is valuable, because each of them is supporting evidence for the other. It may be that there's a link between the reluctance of some, perhaps, to give a witness statement with what I said about anonymity just a few minutes ago. You may not yet have come forward because you're nervous about the reaction of others to what you have to say. But if you feel like that, it may be that you have some particularly distressing experiences to relate. And if so, I acknowledge that that makes it all the more difficult to speak out. But at the same time, it makes it all the more important for the inquiry to hear what has happened. Be assured, the inquiry will do what it can to respect your privacy if that is important to you. And fourth, if you have given a witness statement and would like to be heard, do not please think at the end of this set of hearings that you've lost the chance, any chance of that. I promised to put people who had been infected or affected by the suffering of others not only first, but last. I shall keep that promise. Well, I shouldn't take up any more time, since the schedule we've set ourselves for these next 3 weeks is challenging. The evidence that has been collected and needed to be explored orally demanded that we take 3, not 2 weeks as originally planned, and many days within those weeks are closely packed. On each day, we shall simply go on till we finish the witnesses scheduled for that day. If, on an individual level, you find it too long or too draining, then I'm sorry, but I hope you understand the reasons for that, because they reflect the sheer amount of material that you have already offered us. So, thank you once again for listening to what I've had to say, and now, without any more taking of time, on to our first witnesses together, who wish to be known as
Colin and Denise, sir.
Please.